Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 1 of Daffy's Roundtable, where we will be talking with a variety of different breeders, keepers, and scientists all about breeding reptiles, amphibians, fish, and any other exotic pets. And without wasting any more time, let me introduce my first guest on this podcast. This guest is a good friend of mine and a very talented ball python and crested gecko breeder. Please welcome Harry Tobin of Cascade Critters. Mr. Harry, how you doing, brother? Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. We finally got this whole thing figured out, huh?
Took a little bit, but it's okay.
First episode. I'll get my hands on it. Okay, let's get right into it. Can you let all the potential listeners know how and when did you get into reptiles?
Well, I got into reptiles when I was like really young. The first reptile I ever got was my leopard gecko, which I still have.
Nice.
She's like 12 or 13 now.
Wow.
Um, and so I got her when I was 11 years old. So I guess she's 11. Well, she'll be 12 this year because I'm turning.
Okay.
So
Okay.
she was like the first kind of reptile. Like I had always been into reptiles, like catching frogs and stuff like that, but she's the first reptile I ever owned. And then after that, I started like watching Brian Barczyk and kind of stuff like that. But I was never allowed to get snakes or anything like that until I moved out. So once I moved out, I got my first ball python, which was just like a normal ball python. After that, I started like researching about breeding and stuff like that, and just like getting more of a collection. And I started my business and started breeding stuff. And this will be pretty much my second season breeding snakes and cresta geckos.
Nice. So you're not breeding the leopard gecko, your first leopard
No,
gecko,
no.
right?
I think she's too old to breed. Like I've never bred her or anything like that, but
Okay. You plan on getting into leopard geckos at some point?
I don't know. I've thought about it maybe, but it's never really just like been on my radar. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe though. Like I have the rack space. I could probably do it. So
You're more of a tropical kind of keeper than the on the arid side.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm the same thing.
but yeah.
I've never kept any arid species at all. I've kept the bronze grass skinks once, but other than that, everything's been as humid as it comes.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you're based in British Columbia, correct?
Yeah.
So
Uh,
how's well,
Continue. What were
no,
you?
no, go ahead. No, we're
Well, I was gonna say I'm in near Vancouver. I'm at about an hour away from Vancouver, in a town called Abbotsford.
okay, nice.
Yeah.
So how's the hobby over there? Like, is there a lot of local stores? Do you get expos in your area, or do you have to drive to bigger cities to do all
So
that kind of stuff?
it's kind of weird around here because it's big around here, but like everything's underground. Like there's no
Okay.
reptile pet stores or anything like that. So and like people don't really list stuff on Craigslist and Kijiji. Like the market's really hot around here, so there's a lot of ball python breeders, but they sell stuff just like texting people or just like over Instagram or people they know.
A lot
Like
of people already lined up for waiting in line or whatever.
yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So I guess it's cool. It gives the backyard, or I don't want to use the term backyard breeder, but like local breeders,
Yeah,
an opportunity, I guess.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like I know a guy in Surrey who I get rats from occasionally, and
Okay.
he has a way bigger collection than me. He has a collection of about 150 ball pythons probably,
Okay.
and he doesn't want an Instagram page or anything. He just does everything over text message and word of mouth.
He probably is making more than enough money that way.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He
That's
has
awesome.
like 1,500 rats. He said he breeds like on a
Oh, he
regular.
breeds his own rats.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's big around here, but it's underground. We do have expos. We have a big expo in Vancouver, which is like an hour
Nice.
away, and
Okay.
then there's also an expo in Abbotsford, which is the city I'm in, and it's a little bit smaller, um, but it's good too. And they happen, I believe they happen twice a year when COVID's not on or whatever.
Yeah, it's the same thing here. So we have like the CRBE and the bigger expos in Toronto, Montreal, and then
Yeah.
here we don't even have one in Ottawa actually. We have one across the bridge in Gatineau, but
Okay.
it's so small that it's like I don't even know if you'd consider it an expo. And they didn't do it. They haven't done it in a few years, even before COVID. So I don't know if
Okay.
it'll come back once that's done. But so does it make it? Does that make it hard to source like the rarer reptiles, the harder stuff to find?
Um, somewhat. I mean, the Expo and Abbotsford, there's breeders all like from all over Canada. Um, none from like Ontario, but
It's a bit
a
far.
lot from Alberta and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there is some like rare species there. Tails and scales. If you know,
Okay.
they're
Yeah,
there.
they're based in Toronto actually.
Are they? Okay, I didn't know.
I as far as I know, because they're always at like all the expos on this side as well. So
Okay, maybe they have multiple locations.
maybe they have multiple locations. Yeah.
But I mean, I haven't had really a problem selling animals or anything like that. So
Very cool. Very cool. So you mentioned you get your rats from this other breeder nearby, and he breeds his own. Does that mean you buy live rats, or are you
so
frozen, or does he
so I
freeze
usually
them?
buy like in bulk from him. I'll buy like
Okay.
100 rats at a time or something like that, and
Okay.
in a freezer.
Yeah.
Just
And
easy.
do you find have you ever fed live at all, or straight have you just
Because
started
some of mine have to eat live. Like there's a few that only eat live.
from live? And do you find they eat faster? Is there a better feeding response to live feeding, or do you see there's no difference at all? Or
If they're gonna eat, they're gonna eat. Like that's it's
that's
pretty
just
obvious when they want to eat. Like
okay.
whether it's alive something or dead, like they'll eat it.
Yeah, I've never tried live with my carpet python, but he'll take anything I put in front of him. So I
Yeah,
don't I don't doubt that he would take it.
that's it.
Um,
And like with animals like that, people feed live. Like it's just like, what's the point? Like there's no point to feed live when you could
yeah,
feed frozen.
makes sense.
It's
S-
cheaper even. Like a lot of the time, it's cheaper to feed frozen.
Right, because you can buy like in bulk and just stick it in your freezer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
makes sense. Makes sense. So I've heard a lot of like horror stories about ball pythons not eating for like extended periods of times, 6 months up to a year. Sorry if you hear that. The whisking just decided to go off.
So,
Um, have you ever had any problems like that? Do you have any advice for people who have problems like that?
I mean, ball pythons they go on and off the feed because like if you think about a snake in the wild, like how often do you think it really like,
Gets
especially
food
a ball python, like goes and finds food? Like it's not every week. Like there's not a rat that lands in front of it on a weekly basis. That's just
for
not
sure.
happening. You know what I mean? So people who get like stressed out, especially for like a month, like it's no big deal. Like for even 3 months is it's not really a big deal. The only deal is like when they start losing like a massive amount of weight, like 100 grams in a month or something like that, right?
So if it went like a whole year, no food, but it didn't lose any weight, you wouldn't worry?
No, not really, because
Okay.
it's not losing any body mass or anything like that. So it's healthy, and if it's not showing any signs of sickness or anything, like snakes will want it. Like even like snakes like that, even if you feed it alive, aren't gonna eat
Okay.
because they just don't want to eat.
They just don't want to eat.
Yeah,
That's
like
it.
I've never had that happen where a snake goes off food for a year, but I've heard of it happening to other
Right.
people, and it's normal. You can't force a snake to eat, obviously, but
Yeah. I guess we overfeed in captivity anyway, with
yeah,
the whole like every week or every 2 week feedings.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like it also depends on size of snake and stuff like that. Like if it's a hatchling, that's obviously it can't go a year without food, but
That
um,
actually is a good segue into my next question.
sure.
So when you are breeding, once you have the babies hatch and everything, are freshly hatched babies harder to feed? Do you like, what's the situation with them?
Okay, so like I've gone through a few different methods, like because I'm like last year I was still learning, so I had two clutches last year, and the first clutch I started with all live mice, and they
Okay.
all ate right off the bat. But then when I was like trying to switch them over to frozen rats or like something like even live rats, it was really hard.
Okay.
So I think I had one snake end up dying. Like it wasn't because it wasn't like fed or whatever, but I had one snake die from that clutch, and the rest ended up going over to uh, rat pups, frozen, which was fine, and that worked out. But it took a while for them to go over, so I kept having to go get live mice, go get live mice, and it was just like a really big headache. So then clutch after that, I started with live rat pups, and then almost right away they went over to uh, I'm trying to think. Uh, Frozen rat pups or frozen pinkies, I think.
Yeah.
Trying to think of the sizes because they're so like it's such a nominal size difference, and I have them in the same bag. So, um,
It's
uh,
it's a negligible size. Yeah, you're right.
yeah. But from that clutch, I had one snake that was like out of the egg. It was super underweight and like it just wasn't like looking good for it. And like I tried to feed it live mice, I tried like everything I could, and it just wasn't eating. And I took it to the vet, and they recommend giving it this. I don't know if you've ever had like or seen like
Vitamins.
liquid vitamin kind of thing, and you tube feed it to them. I don't
I
know.
haven't personally tried it, but I did know somebody with a very sick gecko, and the vet also recommended dropping like 2 or 3 drops in in the gecko's mouth every day.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so that was what I like fed it, and I kept it alive for a few meals, but then it eventually just died because it needs to eat something live, and it's just so.
Did you
Um,
try braining a mouse or anything, like bringing out the juices of the brain and all that, getting more of a
no,
smell
because it does. I've tried that before, and I've never had success with
with
any
it?
of
Okay.
that. Like it just doesn't work, especially with hatchlings. Like if a hatchling doesn't want to eat, um, like the only thing I wish I would have done sooner is like try and like assist feed it.
Yeah.
But out of the like it was like I think it died a month later out of the egg. So I
Okay.
tried to feed it twice, and then the next week it was like going downhill. So I took it to the vet, and the vet was like try and give it this. Like they didn't really say try and assist feed it. So,
Okay.
but
Makes
um,
sense.
but the other two are now feeding on frozen ASF.
Okay.
So what I think I'm going to do in the future is try all my like hatchlings fresh out of the egg, frozen ASF, and try that um, with my next clutch that I'm getting. I got 7 eggs, so
Nice. I think ASF is their natural diet in the wild, if I'm not mistaken.
yes,
Okay. Very cool. Okay, let me jump off the ball pythons for a second and ask you about crested geckos because you mentioned assist feeding.
right.
And I have a question about assist feeding. Do you assist feed your baby crested geckos, and do you find there is ever a need to assist feed your baby geckos? I'm talking, of course, I'm not talking geckos with any problems or weaker or sicker gecko. I'm talking perfectly healthy hatching gecko. What is your opinion on assist feeding?
Do you mean like just like letting them lick some like food or whatever off your finger, or do you mean
Yeah,
actually?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like
Uh, well, sorry to cut you off, but no, I don't mean just like, oh, I'm gonna let it like hand feed it, let it lick it, but like only doing it that way for the first few weeks, like only feeding the gecko once you are like having the food on your hand or on a tiny spoon and whatever.
I've never done that. Like I've
Okay.
just let them, because like the thing is, I think is like if a crested gecko isn't gonna thrive and it needs to feed off of your finger, then like I don't know. I've never had a problem with that. Like my like geckos grow up and it's not really an issue.
Okay.
Um, they all grow at their own rate, obviously, and stuff like that. Like I will occasionally like just let them lick gecko diet or whatever off my finger.
But for your enjoyment.
Enrichment, yeah, just like enrichment or whatever. Uh,
Okay.
Sometimes, like, if I notice like one that is like a little bit skinnier or whatever, I might separate it from the group and like pay more attention to it, like do that more often, assist feed more often, or like supplement with crickets more often. Um, but other than that, like geckos are gonna thrive. Like I have just found geckos thrive really well.
On their own.
Had like occasional deaths, but
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I've never had to hand feed or anything, and I usually just like I put them in a decently sized enclosure, nothing too big because I don't want them to like struggle to find the food, but nothing too small either. And then they usually just find it. But I on forums and Facebook groups and on Instagram, I've been seeing a lot of people always giving this hand feed your geckos. They're not eating, hand feed your geckos, and I just it doesn't make sense to me. I want to put out that like you might not be seeing how much they're eating, but they're eating, and a good way to find out if they're eating is actually to look for poop in the enclosures, and that way you can be sure. But unless the gecko's unhealthy, I'm sure that it'll find the food on its own.
for
I
sure.
agree with you. Yeah.
And I mean, like, if there's one that's super underweight, like, try and separate it from the group. But if it's not finding food and it's not thriving, like, and it dies, like, it wasn't meant to be for that gecko. Like.
So you raise your hatchlings in groups?
Yeah, small groups. Like, I try and keep it of minimum, well, like 2 hatchlings, but maximum of 4.
Okay. And do you find any problems with that, or any? Do you find that let's say tails fall off more often, or because
I
I've been doing separate for every baby, and it's starting to drive me crazy because I have too many containers when it's baby season.
like people say about tail loss and stuff, and like even at expos I see a lot of geckos without tails and stuff. My enclosures I rarely see, like I think I maybe have had 3 geckos drop tails, and
Okay.
one of those times was my fault because I didn't see that it was like in the glass or
The
whatever.
lid, or yeah, yeah.
My own fault.
No, yeah, that sucks, but it happens, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're sneaky. You never know when parts of their finger. I'm always like looking for fingertips, and
Yeah,
it's crazy.
like you don't want
Yeah,
to like shove them on the glass either, like
yeah. It's
it,
move,
yeah,
get in. Yeah.
yeah,
Um. Okay. Let me segue back to the snake, the hatchling snake feeding.
sure.
Because I had another question about. So I heard this on another podcast once about injecting ripashi into pinky mice to give the snakes additional nutrition at that a young age. What do you think about this? Would you consider trying it? And do you think it's necessary?
Into what? To get to feed to what?
So like
Like you would
they
put
inject
Rapashi
ripashi into like a syringe and then inject it into like a frozen pinky rat or pinky mouse or whatever, and then feed that to the snake.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
You never heard of that? Okay. No? Do you think it's a good idea? Does it sound like a good idea to
That's a
you?
bad idea.
I don't know, man. It sounds like a good idea to me. You're getting actually, it's kind of like gut loading crickets, you
Well,
know?
like I kind of see that, but at the same time, like it's what it should just be eating. If you have good nutrition for the rat and everything, it should have that nutrition in it already, and you shouldn't have to
Right.
give it extra.
What about people who don't know where their rats are coming from and don't know what the rats are being fed?
Yeah, like that's
I don't know. It's just a thought that I heard it and it sounded really interesting to me. So I figured I'd ask someone who actually
like
breeds
I think
snakes
there needs
about
to
it.
be more research done into that. That as well as like alternatives to rats, and so we don't have to rely so much on like breeding rats because
Right.
there's huge facilities that are just dedicated to rats, which is fine. Like that's great for snake breeders, but if you could eliminate like all of that and you could just like produce it in little packages or something, like that'd be so much easier.
I like the way PetSmart has them in little boxes with the
Yeah,
frozen.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
makes sense. I guess.
um, but yeah, that's just my thoughts. But yeah,
No, that's cool. Like I said, I hadn't heard of it, but it sounded interesting, and I thought I might as well ask somebody that has a little more experience with snakes.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. Like the closest thing I've heard of that to that is there's people who feed their snake like this supplement. It's like vitamin D supplement, pretty much, and they just like shove it down their snake's mouth with a syringe and just like give it to them as like an extra thing. And apparently their snakes eat better and stuff, but I don't know.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of different methods and different things that people do that
Yeah.
they swear by. Like somebody I know is now swearing by feeding their geckos baby food instead of Rapashi or Pangea or anything, and she says that she gets a little more weight on them and whatever. But and I know that's what they used to do before Rapashi and Pangea was created, but I just don't feel like you're getting all the nutrients in them that way. What do you think?
I don't know. I've never used baby food, so I don't know. Like I've heard of the same thing that like that's what everybody used before Rapashi and stuff.
Hmm.
But I don't know. Like I haven't really liked my last few orders with like that I got from Rapashi. I don't know. It's just like I'm a lot happier with Pangea. Like
With the quantity that the geckos are eating from Pangea.
yeah, and just like the flavor and everything. Like it just seems
Yeah.
like they grow faster on it for sure. I've never tried baby food, but um,
Have you ever tried the Zoomed brand or the Arcadia brand?
those.
Did you? Sorry, you cut off there. What did you say?
I said I wouldn't try either of those.
You wouldn't? Why not?
I don't know. They just like don't look like they would be good at all. They usually sit on the shelf for a long time, so the expiry date's probably close. And
Interesting. I've tried the Zoomed one. A few of my geckos took to it, but the Arcadia one, not a single one has like went near it. So
I wonder if there's
I don't
gonna be
know.
a Thrive brand one, like
Uh,
you know what I mean?
the what brand? Sorry,
Thrive, I think it's called. It's the PetSmart brand.
I'm not familiar.
I don't know. I think they're making like glass enclosures, front opening glass enclosures.
Okay.
Uh, kind of like Exoterras, but not really. But I forget what the brand is called. I think it's Thrive, but I forget.
I'm not familiar with Thrive, but I know that PetSmart carries um, the Exoterra and the Fluckers version of Crested Gecko diet, and that does not look good at all.
Yeah,
Not that I'm going to be eating it, but it just doesn't look like it's a complete diet.
yeah.
The Exoterra one looks somewhat like it's the same. It's a powder, whatever, like Rapashi. But the Fluckers one is pellets, so I'm not sure what they were going with there.
Have you ever? I forget which one it is, but it's like little pellets that are like mushy. It's not Flukers. I think it's Zoomen, or it might be Exoterra. But
It might be Exoterra because the Zoomed one is also a powder.
okay, I might
Yeah,
try the Zoomed one maybe.
yeah. It's their, or maybe that was the older Zoomed diet or something. Because this is the new diet. They came out with this like a year ago.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's
But
pretty good. The tropical fruit one is the one that my geckos took to.
okay,
Not so much the watermelon.
okay.
Yeah.
But I think Pangea, Rapashi, like one of the two is good. Like your geckos will eat it. It's just a matter of how much they'll grow and how much they'll eat. So
Yeah, and they'll do good and they'll be healthy on either of those diets. I definitely agree with that.
yeah,
Do you feed your geckos crickets often? Are you
yeah.
team bugs, team no bugs?
I occasionally do. I don't know if I told you about like the. I don't know if it was a mishap or what happened, but the two Dalmatians that I have unfortunately died like
Oh
2
no.
weeks ago.
Like at the same time?
Yeah. So
Interesting.
what happened was I think because I had just put like new plants in there a few weeks ago.
Okay.
So you know how like sometimes there's like little bits of fertilizer in the plants.
Right.
I think that was like on the bottom of the cage, and so I fed everyone crickets, and
You
then
think that
this happened like a week or two later. The female just got like a really bad rash kind of thing on her belly, and then I was gonna take her to the vet the next day, but she died.
okay.
And then the male just like looked like he was really dehydrated and stuff like that, but I had just missed, like, I misted them all every day pretty much that week. I think the Mist King was on.
So so they got it. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting, interesting. I haven't heard of like two geckos in. Are they different enclosures?
No, it was the same
Same
enclosure.
enclosure. Okay.
One, like,
Okay.
maybe
Okay.
it was like the fertilizer, or maybe there was something in the dirt. So I'm just gonna redo that enclosure eventually. But
Yeah,
really unfortunate because, like,
that is, man. I'm sorry for your loss.
I know it sucks,
Yeah,
but
this would be a good time to
that's
put
part
out
of
like a
the hobby.
PSA. Rinse your roots well
Yeah,
before
definitely.
you put them in your tank. I actually use a 10% bleach solution. It gets rid of all the pests, any hitchhikers, anything, and then I blast the roots with like a really strong stream of water to get rid of all those like fertilizer pits and all
Okay.
the soil and everything, and then I'll drop it into 10% bleach solution for like half an hour, an hour. Shout out to JHJ on Instagram, by the way, for giving me this. I haven't had a single problem with plants or
Yeah.
hitchhikers or insects or
Yeah,
anything since I learned this method. It's crazy. It's crazy.
interesting. Okay, I need to
Yeah,
maybe do that then.
yeah. I can like I'll message you some more details about
Sure.
it. It's definitely helpful.
Yeah, that's it. That's one place I think that I really lack is and stuff. Like, I'm good at taking care of the animals, but,
The
like,
plants.
well, the plant, like, I can water them and everything, but I just don't know, like, when a plant is sick and stuff, and they just go downhill really quickly, and it's like,
They do really quickly. I actually was the same. Like I wasn't good with plants either until I got into dart frogs. It's a
mm,
lot more plant based than like the crested gecko and like the gecko world. So I picked up a few more things, but I still struggle with plants too. I mean, if you look
yeah,
at some of these tanks, there's yellow leaves and then
yeah,
freshly created leaf litter everywhere.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, man. All right, let's get back to. I have a few more questions about the ball python breeding, if you
Sure.
don't mind.
Yeah.
Um, does the sex of the babies depend on the temperature you incubate the eggs at? So are they TSD, like temperature dependent
So,
sex
from what I
determination?
know, it's not, from everyone I've talked to and everything like that. But I incubate at a little bit of a lower temp than a lot of people do. Like, most people incubate at 90 degrees.
Okay.
I normally incubate at 89.
And is that to hope in hopes of getting more females or
Well, I want to. Well, one thing is I just want to play with the temperatures a little bit and see if that does help. And
okay?
two, I think that if you give them a little bit longer, they have a little bit longer to absorb all that yolk. So it gives them a little bit more time. I don't know. It's
Very
just,
cool.
there's other people who have who incubate at a little bit of a lower temp too, and they say the same thing, that it's a little bit better for, like, they find that the snakes hatch out at a bigger size and stuff like that. So
That makes sense. Longer incubation, bigger size snakes.
yeah,
Yeah. I tested it with crested geckos as well. I haven't been able to find the correlation. Like the babies will come out a complete mix at much lower temperatures and much higher temperatures. But I did also see that lower temperatures, obviously longer incubation, and the babies did come out bigger and they grew faster too. Actually, than those. Yeah, they just I guess they ate more or they were just more ready to take on life than the ones that were in for shorter periods or the ones that are incubated at higher temperatures.
colder. Interesting. I'll have to look into that some more.
It's
But
it's it's very interesting.
one thing about ball pythons that is interesting is there's a gene, like the banana gene. You've probably seen it.
Okay, I believe you have. I'm
Yeah,
not well versed with ball python
I have
genetics,
a
but I
lot of
believe you have one, right? Okay,
I
yeah.
have a lot of banana.
Okay.
Um, but banana is a sex-link gene. So if you have a banana male, everything that is banana in that clutch will be male, and everything that's not banana will be female. So, like, I got a clutch last year that was I ended up getting 3 eggs, and I got one banana and then two others, and it was a pastel Enchi and an Enchi, I think. I'm still not like 100% sure, but the pastel and the pastel Enchi were both female, and the other one was a male, obviously, because it had banana. The male died. That was the one that.
Oh, okay.
Um, The other two, like it's nice that you know that like pretty much what you're gonna get like sex wise before you even get the eggs and everything.
Even yeah,
So
that's very interesting. Okay, so what happens from there? So you breed the male to a non-banana female, and you get all the babies are males.
really confusing. You don't
No,
want to know how confusing it gets.
but if you were like to breed one of the children, one of the male children bananas to another female banana, let's say.
Okay, so the first thing is that you can never get a female. Well, I shouldn't say that. You're like 1 in 100 to hit a female banana from a male banana. Okay,
Okay.
so if
Okay.
you only have male bananas in your collection, you're rarely gonna get a female banana.
Interesting. Okay.
So you have to buy female bananas. Is the first thing.
Well, how do those people get the female bananas then?
Well, it's from the wild or like the one-offs, right?
Okay.
And then what you can do is with a female banana, 50% of the babies will like it's regular sex ratios, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But any male that comes from a female banana will be a male maker banana, or sorry, a female maker banana. So you have female makers and male maker bananas.
Male makers. Okay. Interesting.
So if you have a female maker, then all of the bananas in that clutch will be uh, female, and then
Female.
the rest, like anything without banana, will be male. It's so confusing. It's
Very confusing, but also very interesting.
yeah.
It's very cool that genes can play with the sex of an animal. Is there any other morphs that do anything like that, or is it just the banana with
I
the?
think well, coral glow as well, but coral glow is basically the banana gene. It's just another like version of the banana gene, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
There's nothing really like that. The only thing that is like a close anomaly like that is I don't know if you've ever seen pieds.
I have seen pies. Very beautiful snakes.
So with a pied is a recessive gene, right?
Okay.
So you have recessive and codominant genes pretty much. You have dominant genes as well, but pretty much you have recessive and codominant genes. Like just like in crested geckos, how lily white is a codominant.
Okay.
Like, you know about recessive genes much?
I enough to understand what you're saying. Yeah, go ahead.
Viewers, because when people watch this, they'll be like,
Okay.
confused too. So
Alright.
recessive gene is basically you can have a visual form of a recessive gene, or you can have a het version of a recessive gene. So the visual version, a good example is like the piebald in ball pythons, is a visual version of that gene. But you can have 100% het pied, and it's a normal looking snake, right? But if you bred that to a pied or another het pied, you would get a pied. Okay. But so, and then with recessive genes, you have to have like the mom and the dad have to have either like the visual form or a het on either side of the pairing to get a visual like pied. So you have to have the mom either has to be like a het pied or a visual pied, and the dad has to be a het pied or a visual pied, whatever.
Okay.
And then a codominant gene is a gene where you have a visual form of it. Take like pastel, bamboo, banana, any of those genes. If you have it even on one side of the pairing, you have a possibility like at making that. So if you had a banana and you bred it to a normal ball python, you would still be able to make bananas. I think it's like 50% of the babies would come out banana and 50% will come out normal.
Yeah. Do you make your Punnett squares and everything?
I don't do that. Like I look on the Morph calculator, but
there's a morph calculator. That's cool.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What is a morph?
Okay,
What is a morph
if
calculator?
anyone, like wants to get into ball pythons and like look at ball pythons and stuff like that,
Okay.
go on to Morph Market, and I think at the top there's a link for it. It says calculator, or if you type into Google Morph Market calculator, it will come right up. or World of Ball Pythons have it. But I
Okay.
like the one on Morph Market better because it calculates it all, and you can see like whatever, like it goes down to like 1% or 2% odds sometimes, right? But you can click on, you can see what pairings have been listed on Morph Market before. So if there's a pairing you do and then it hasn't ever been listed on Morph Market, it will just be grayed out and there's not a box to click. But if it has, there's a box to click and you can see how much it sold for and what it looked like and stuff like that. So you can kind of see exactly what you would get from that pairing. It's pretty
Very
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I was trying to share screen because I opened the genetic
Oh, okay.
morph
Yeah.
calculator,
Open it.
but it's I don't know why it's not working. Okay, guys, we pulled up the morph calculator here, and Harry's gonna show us how it works. So
Yeah.
okay,
So
guide
basically,
me.
just have like parent one, parent two. So maybe do like say a pied to a 100% het pied.
Pi to 100%. Am I right? 100%.
Yep. Just do het pied.
Pi
And
and
you'll get,
check.
yeah, just calculate. So you'll see now you get one normal pied and uh, you're going to get 50% normal pieds and 50% het pieds, which will be
Het
just
pies.
normal ball pythons.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
And
Okay.
then
Okay. Let's.
if you go back and do like
Yeah, I
do
was gonna say give us some crazy morphs. Let's try
um
something out.
well, we'll do another simple one and then we'll do a crazy one. So
Okay. Sweet.
do like a butter.
Butter. What's the butter?
Yep.
There's a morph called butter drum.
Butter drum.
Butter
No,
drum.
no. Just do butter. Just those are
Okay.
combos. Those are just combos.
Okay, makes sense. All right,
Uh,
butter,
butter to like a bamboo.
bamboo.
This is a snake that I should hit this year for sure.
Okay, cool. Very cool. So you get four possible morphs. You get 25% blue-eyed Lucy, 25% butter, 25% bamboo, and then you'll probably get like 25% normal. That's
Yep.
basically what this is saying, right?
Yep. Exactly.
That's very cool. That's
So
very cool.
basically, what it's saying is that you'll get 25% at a two gene combo. 50% will be a one gene, either the butter or the bamboo, and then the other 25% will be in just normal, since you have two genes at play and they're both co-dominant genes. And then say you had like if you had a pied in the mix, everything would come out 100% het pied since it's visual. If that makes sense.
That's very interesting. I'm wondering now. I mean,
Like
I
there's
know the crested
a lot
gecko
of depth
morphs.
to it.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I know crested gecko morphs are like very, like there's no we don't have enough information to know what's het and they're all mixed up together and there's no way. But this would if someone made something like this for crested geckos, that would be really cool. And honestly, good job to whoever came up with this. I
Yeah.
am I am impressed.
Yeah.
Hit us with one more. Give us like some crazy morphs, and then we'll
Okay,
we'll
so
stop the screen share and go back.
let's do a Enchi Spinner Blast
Wow, Enchi Spinner Blast. Okay,
to a Bamboo Shatter.
bamboo shatter. Did I spell shatter right?
Yeah. Is that with an S?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, this is what I wanted to see. Wow.
So this is one of my pairings this year.
If you're listening to this on something other than YouTube, by the way, I will take a screenshot of this and upload it to the podcast notes so you can see this. But basically, this combo gives you like 164 different possibilities,
Yeah.
each at 2%. So you're getting 2% bamboo, enchi, pastel, pinstripe, shatter, spider, and then 2%. Wow, this is there's morph names here. Okay, so like 2% spinner blast, Aquia shatter. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these
I think
right.
it's
Spinner blast,
Aquila Shatter.
Aquila shatter. This is impressive.
Yeah.
How do I get my hands on one of these snakes?
Well, and this is the thing that's hard about this is because like some of those ones at the top, they have so many genes that they look so similar to each other. Like if you click on the one that's blue, do you see the one that's blue there?
They're all blue.
If no, look down in under the morph
Oh,
name.
I see it. Spinner Blast
Yeah,
Bamboo.
if you click on that,
Okay.
that's gonna look pretty close to what. Oh, you have to have an account, so never mind.
Okay.
But that's
Okay.
gonna look pretty close to like what all those other combos are. The thing that is interesting about that combo is that I
Okay.
have
Never mind.
shatter in the mix, which is a gene that really hasn't been worked with much.
Okay. I'm just gonna go back. Hold on.
Um, and
Okay.
what shatter does is it adds like an ash effect to the whole snake, so it almost looks like someone's just like gone with charcoal over the whole snake and just rubbed it into the sides of the snake and just like all over the um not the underside so much, but just like where the white meets the pattern. And then underneath the chin, it looks like someone's just rubbed charcoal all underneath the mouth and chin, and it almost looks like there's mites there, but there's not, and it's really interesting. It's a crazy snake.
Very
So,
cool. And you can get that with like something with blue eyes.
um, well, that's what I'm aiming for this year. So, um, that is the shatter gene is like a pattern disruption gene, somewhat like Enchi is.
Okay.
Blue-eyed leucistics are like snakes like butter, bamboo, russo, mojave, uh, and then like you can also mix it up. Like there's snakes, like you can get a white snake with black eyes if you do the super fire. You can do a totally white snake with red eyes if you do a blue-eyed leucistic albino.
Would I was about to say, would that be considered an albino then?
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
but see, that's a long-term project because you have a recessive gene and then you have a 25% odds at hitting the blue-eyed leucistic. So usually what people would do would be buy the blue-eyed leucistic 100% het and then buy like an albino mojave or something, and then you would
And
hit
then
that.
you would work your way into that. Okay, very interesting. So let me ask you this: how accurate is this morph market, and um, is is it? Would you recommend it to new breeders?
Oh yeah, like this morph calculator is pretty much what everyone uses. I mean, for me, these complicated ones I can't really do in my head, but the simple blue-eyed leucistic ones I can just do in my head, like, oh, I know 25%, whatever, right?
Okay,
It's a lot easier to see it on paper or whatever.
definitely.
Um, but for new breeders, it's a really good tool to learn the morphs and everything because you can click on the animals you might be producing or whatever and see, oh, that's what I'll get, or see maybe that's what I need to buy to produce what I want, right?
Okay,
Um,
okay.
the one like
So,
there is some combinations that don't really like work because they're just weird combinations. Like the Toffino is a really weird combination.
Tofino?
Yeah, so the Toffino is is an allelic gene. It's called so allelic genes can interact with other genes.
Like
So
this one right here?
which one?
Are you seeing this on the screen?
No, I'm not seeing anything on the screen. I'm seeing the
Oh,
calculations or whatever.
why is okay? How do I? Oh,
It's frozen.
it's frozen. Hold on.
We're kind of off our rabbit trail now. I hope that's okay.
No, that's definitely okay. This is more interesting than I've never even heard of. I don't know how. Well, I guess because I don't deal with ball pythons, but I've never even heard of this morph market thing, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know about it, and like I think it's a really good reference point to just check the price of animals and see if they're getting ripped off or like even for me, I can go and look on Morph Market and see what an animal's selling for, and literally tell my customer this is what it's selling for on Morph Market. Give it to me, or I'm just gonna list it and get that anyways.
Get it? Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
So
Is this?
Toffino.
Can you see it right now? Is this the
Yep,
snake we're talking about on the screen?
yep. So
Okay.
Toffino, if you go down to the one Marcus Jane, he's a good breeder. I like him.
Is that
Yeah,
my
that one there.
yeah? Oh,
So
okay. I
that's
see
a
that. Yeah.
So this is a really complicated snake. So the Toffino gene is allelic. So basically, it's a gene that can interact with albino. So albino and toffee, if you breed a toffee to an albino, you'll get all toffinos.
Okay.
And if you breed a toffino and a toffino, 25% will come out. Actually, I think they're all they'll all come out toffino. But if you breed a toffee to a toffino, you'll get 50% toffee, and then you'll get 25%, or you'll get 50% toffee and 50% toffino. I think. I don't know.
Should we throw it on? Should we throw it on the Morph market?
Yeah, it's really confusing. But with the piebald in there, it's really confusing because you have another recessive in there as well. So you have to have like it's like a double het, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So this is exactly why everybody's so, I guess, obsessed with ball pythons and all the different morphs and everything. It's just crazy
Well,
amount you can do with it.
that people are working with now called cryptic, that is like, I forget which I think it's puzzle. That's puzzle or moss. I think it might be puzzle. I don't know. I haven't looked too much in it, but it's a lilac with clown, I think.
Very cool.
But there's just a lot of different snakes. Like, there's so many different patterns and things you can do. If you look up like the shatter, that's one that I work with a lot. That looks somewhat similar to puzzle. The calico shatter is one that I really want to do, but the first one there I think is a really good example of shatter.
Okay, very nice snake. I see that little like we were talking about, like someone rubbed charcoal on it right there.
Yeah, exactly. But
Okay.
it's also the like, I look at it as a pattern disruption. Like, it doesn't look like a normal snake. If you look at the lines on it, it almost looks like there's three H's on that snake. Do you see that?
Yeah, I do. I do. That's very cool. Again, for everybody not watching, I'll put a picture of the snake in the show notes.
It's just crazy.
That is a very beautiful snake.
So what I'm hoping to do with that snake is add it to the blue-eyed leucistic, and I'm hoping that the blacks on it show through, and maybe some patterning, because the bamboo does have some patterning with the blue-eyed leucistics.
Okay.
We'll see. I don't know.
Okay.
Experimenting.
Yeah, man. Good luck. Send me pictures. Let me know what happens.
Definitely.
I'll stop screen sharing here.
It's a world first clutch, so I think.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. So in crested geckos, when you pull out the eggs, I'm sure you already know this. When you invert them, nothing happens to the eggs at all.
No.
I've heard that with ball pythons, inverting the eggs can kill them, and it has something to do with like an air sac or an air bubble. Can you elaborate on this a little more?
Like, there is an air sac, obviously, at the top of the egg. I don't think necessarily if you turn the egg completely upside down, even, that's gonna like kill the snake. But you obviously want to avoid that as much as possible.
Okay.
I think the best way to do that is when the female is coiled around the eggs. Put like what I do is I put a line on all the eggs. I don't know if you've seen me cut eggs before.
I do that with I do that with the crested gecko with the eggs, even though there's no reason to.
But what I do is, because they coil around the egg, so what I do is when I uncoil the female and take her off, I leave the eggs there, and I put a little dot at the very top of each egg, so I know where the top of the egg is. And then when I go to candle them, I don't turn them like beyond like 45 degrees of that.
Okay.
Just so then I know, like, you know, where, because the female's gonna be pretty good at knowing where that embryo is or whatever.
Right.
The ones I candled, like, she was like pretty much bang on to where I drew the line, so I have pretty good faith in
the snake's abilities. Yeah. Okay.
So but I mean, I would avoid it as much as possible. It's not going to necessarily kill an egg, but I've never like done that, so I don't know, but
cool.
I've never heard of that. So
okay. So the process basically is you put the male in with the female, and then a few months, I assume,
Yeah,
later she lays the eggs?
it's about 3 to 6 months. Yeah.
Okay, and then she coils around them, right?
Yeah. So
And you have to.
so basically 3 to 6 months, and then you'll see she should shed. I'm hearing apparently that she'll go into a pre-ovulation shed. So she'll go into a pre-ovulation shed, and then about a week or two later, she'll ovulate, and you'll definitely see her swell up and see that there's eggs inside her and everything, just like visually.
Okay.
And then about a week or two after that, you'll see her do her pre-lay shed, and then 30 days after that, you'll see her lay eggs, and then it's about 55 to 60 days when you see babies if you incubate them.
Very cool. Okay, and then have you ever struggled getting the eggs away from the mom? Are they ever like a little more aggressive around this time, or do they just let you take them?
No, they are definitely more aggressive. Like definitely,
Yeah. Okay.
they want to protect their eggs and they're more in defense mode. But I would say it also depends on the female. I have one female who like she's like two really good clutches for me, and just like she was a proven breeder at the from the breeder I got her from.
Right.
So she's like had clutches and stuff like that. Um, and she has never had a problem me taking her off eggs, like never been defensive or bitten me or anything like that. She's always chill. So
She's used to it at this point.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about so in the wild? Do they keep incubating till the eggs hatch?
Yeah, so in the wild they'll just coil around the eggs. Sometimes if like a meal or something comes by, they'll take a meal in the wild. But pretty much they're just coiled around those eggs for 60 to 90 days. I think it takes a little bit because they're maternally incubating, and
Okay.
they'll hatch out. But the hatch ratios aren't as great because it's like colder temperatures and it's not as consistent, and
Okay.
humidity is a problem. The eggs
Okay.
really, really dry out. So
Okay, so that kind of answers my next question. I was going to ask you if you've ever thought of letting her do the incubation herself and not pulling the eggs to incubate them, but I guess that would just lower the success rate of the hatching, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And for anyone out there thinking of breeding ball pythons, I would really recommend, if you don't have a good incubator and you're thinking about putting your animal through all of the stress of breeding, let her maternally incubate. Don't incubate them if you don't have a really good incubator that you know is consistent and is going to hatch those eggs. Because if you put something in some, like if you put good eggs in something is kind of crappy and something that isn't like something you have 100% confidence in, like why would you just not let nature take a course and at least let a few hatch? You know what I mean?
Right. What happens in the wild? What happens after they hatch? Does the mom, there's no parental care at all, right? They just
No.
head off in their separate directions.
Yeah, they just slither off pretty much.
Okay.
Uh, Pretty much in the wild now, what happens in Africa is like with ball pythons at least is a lot of like there's a lot of ball python hunters that go
And
out.
poachers?
Well, not like not hunters necessarily, but they just want to. What they do is they capture the snakes and they get the eggs, and
Poachers.
they like like somewhat poachers, but they actually incubate the eggs and everything and then hatch them and then they sell them on like Morph Market as wild caughts.
But
So
see that, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me that we're still doing this at this point, especially with how easy ball pythons are to breed and how many people are doing it.
well, the thing is that that I see at least from it is from a positive standpoint. And I saw a documentary that was like all negative about the trade of it and stuff, and I watched a documentary later that was positive about it.
Okay.
But they actually release a lot of the snakes back into the wild. They only just care about the ones that are like crazy looking or like way different.
Where they can get like a possible new het from or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So basically, the hub of ball pythons is in Benin. I think it's called Africa. It's a
Okay.
like really small country in West Africa that's really poor. But like big breeders do trips over there, like JKR or like Aussie Boyd's,
Yeah.
Bar Check. People like those would go over there and go through these snakes and be like, okay, I want this because it looks crazy, and then the rest would just get released back into the wild.
So I guess in a certain form, they're actually increasing the hatch rate in the wild if they're incubating themselves and then releasing most of them. I guess a lot of those babies wouldn't survive anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially the weird looking ones, because those are usually the ones picked up first by predators.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah, it makes sense. Two ways to look at it. Interesting thought. Yeah.
So I think that the problem is I think is that it's more of a black market trade there right now because
Yeah.
there's just not the infrastructure in
It's not
Africa.
regulated at all.
Yeah. So you just need to like put some money into that and make it an actual trade and like give those people an income or like an actual set job to go and find those animals or whatever. Like I don't know, right? But
No, it definitely makes sense.
yeah.
Definitely makes sense. Okay. Very interesting. Okay, and what do you incubate on? In
Okay.
what kind of incubator do you use? What do you incubate on?
Okay.
And you know,
Yeah, at all of that. At what
yeah, give
temperature?
us the incubation lowdown or
Okay,
whatever.
so temperature is 90 degrees
Okay,
for 55 days.
sweet.
I used to cut at 52 days, but I'm gonna up it to 55 days because I lowered my temps to 1 degree. So I'm gonna
Okay,
like wait to cut. What I'm gonna do now, because what I used to do is just cut, but like there was too much liquid spilling out, and like I feel bad about that. But what I'm gonna do is wait for like two to pip, and then once two pip,
then you
like
know the rest are
come
ready.
out, then the rest are fine, and I can cut them, right?
Makes sense.
So that's what I'm gonna wait to do now. So I'm guessing that's gonna be about day 55, day 56. Um,
Cool.
I incubate on vermiculite, and then I have egg crate on top. I used to not do the egg crate, but everybody does that, and I'm gonna like it's gonna work way better. I already know because the eggs are suspended, right?
Not sitting in water. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
Um, my incubator is like a homemade wine fridge that
Cool.
I got from another breeder that had really good success with it.
Very cool.
I've had really good success with it. Uh, yeah, I mean it's just a standard thing, but unless you know something is like really set up good for what you need, I wouldn't recommend using it. Like don't try and like unless you know what you're building, unless you're following like something on YouTube or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just gonna end up killing the eggs. So
Yeah. No, I wouldn't even. I'm not handy. I wouldn't even try to build an incubator myself, to be honest.
no, no, I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying
I know. Yeah.
about breeding, but
No,
I've
definitely.
just seen it too many times where people like build like some $25 incubator and they're like, look how much money I saved, and then you never see
Uh,
the eggs hatch ever.
yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
So
Makes sense. So, have you ever had rotting or molding in the eggs within this incubator? Or has it all been smooth
um
sailing?
so last time I had so my first clutch of eggs, I had issues with the eggs deflating a little bit, so they're
Okay.
being too crinkly. And if you maternally incubate, a lot of the time, that's the issue you have is that they deflate a lot of the time,
Okay.
and then like you just have smaller babies and stuff like that. They just don't thrive as much.
And that's due to lack of humidity,
Lack of humidity.
right?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much lack of humidity. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so if you suspend them up a bit and then you put more water in the bottom, then like you avoid that issue.
Okay.
Although I have my clutch of 7 eggs right now, and one of the 7 is molding right now, so we'll see. But
Keep me updated on how that goes.
yeah,
So I've had a few crested gecko eggs mold this year. It's because I'm in a new house and I don't really know, temperature swings, humidity, and all that. I'm still testing it out, but I've been doing some reading, and apparently mold is due to lack of ventilation. So try to maybe open the doors out and air it out every. I don't know if this is proven or if it works, but
yeah,
I've been trying to do it, and I also have been wiping the mold off the eggs and then putting them back. And it
yeah.
seems that so far has also been helping, but I'm not too sure.
So also another tip that I'll give, and this is
Yeah.
that I'm gonna do for my egg once. like, I don't know, probably this week sometime. I just got to go get it from the store. But Austin from Mutation Creation, as well as Billy from Mutation Creation, I'm sure.
Sweet.
They like mold. They have a thing called mold gold or whatever.
Okay.
But
That's interesting.
what they do is whenever an egg gets moldy, they put foot powder on it.
Okay.
Like fungus foot powder or whatever.
Yeah.
You just like put a lot of that on. Like if you just have a little bit of mold or like mold spotting, uh, just put it on with like a Q-tip or something like that. But if
Okay.
it's a lot, just like douse it in it, or put it on with a paper towel, like wipe it on it or something like that. Like wipe the mold off first, and then wipe the foot powder or whatever on it.
Do you wipe it off afterwards, the foot powder,
No,
or
you keep it on. Keep it
you
on
keep it
there.
on? Okay.
It's like antifungal too, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
keep the fungus from growing.
It's kind of like using methylene blue with like fish eggs. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's one tip. I've never done it, but I'm going to. Like Billy from Mutation Creation, I said he's used it, and he's obviously a huge breeder. So
Huge breeder. I wonder if something similar to that would work with any other species, not just ball pythons.
I'm sure it would. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's foot powder or whatever. I'm not sure how it would affect like the small bodies of a crested gecko or something, but
But if you were to put a really little bit on a Q-tip, like you mentioned, and just
and it's not like the crested gecko is getting in contact with it, but it's breathing through the egg. So that's what you have to keep in mind, right?
100%, 100%. That's very interesting. Yeah. If you do ever try that as well, keep me updated. I'm just trying to do like collect some data on like mold and rotting in eggs, and just trying to find a way to completely avoid it. Obviously, completely avoiding it is probably impossible, but like
Well, it's
lessen
just
the amount
plus
of.
like, the first like last year went really good for me, and I didn't really have that. Like I had 2 deaths or whatever, but this year is like I had those 2 animals die, and I have this egg molding. And it's like but
But you also just
the
moved,
problem still,
so
yeah.
it's kind of hard to judge in a new area. What's the temperature going to be like in a month or two?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Do you enjoy keeping? Have you found that you're enjoying keeping the arboreal species of snakes more than ball pythons, or what do
Uh,
you find easier or more enjoyable as well?
I don't know. Like a boreal is definitely more interesting to look at and stuff. I'm sure you'll
Okay.
find like I don't. You don't have a ball python, do you?
I don't. I have a carpet python. I think they're considered semi-arboreal because I do see him climb. Like he does have space to climb up and down, and I do see it happen. But
Okay.
no, never had a ball python.
Right. Okay. Um, I mean, they're more interesting to just look at and watch because they are more interested in you.
These are the tree boas you're talking about.
Yeah, like they're more
Okay.
interested in what's going on around like you and just like what you're up to. So like if I'm doing chores in there, they'll come out and like look at me and just like see what's going on.
Come up to the glass and
Yeah,
okay, very
exactly.
cool.
Um, that's why sometimes they can be aggressive because like snakes don't really have that good eyesight. So when you put like a thumb in front of them, they kind of think it's a pinky mouse. You know what I mean?
Okay, right, yeah.
I'm sure. I don't know how your carpet python is, but I'm sure.
He's so they have a reputation of being like extremely nippy and bitey, and he's never even tried. He's
Yeah.
the most. I got really lucky with him. He eats every time. He doesn't try to bite. He super sweet snake, but yeah.
Nice.
So my experience with snake is really small because he's never. You know what I mean? Like if he had
Yeah,
caused me more problems, might have been a little more experienced, but
that makes
maybe
sense.
soon.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, but I don't know. Ball pythons are different too because it's like there's all the morphs and stuff. So,
Right.
but I have a red phase and a yellow phase.
Those
Uh,
again, the Amazon tree boas.
yeah,
Okay, let me pull up pictures of those. Red phase Amazon tree boa.
yeah. At least that's what I think it is. Like from all my research, I don't really know morphs that much. Like there's not Amazon tree boas aren't like ball pythons like with morphs and stuff. It's different.
Okay.
They change color throughout their age and stuff like that. And
So we're talking something like this.
the second one maybe.
Like this?
Yeah, it's more like an orangey one. Mine has less splotches and more like dots on it. And then I also have a yellow phase.
Okay, very cool. Wait, let me try to pull up the yellow phase.
And like the reason I like I breed ball pythons because I like those like with the morphs and stuff. Okay, so
Right.
the eggs from those. But I don't really want to deal with eggs with other species and stuff. Like I don't want to have to deal with different incubation temps and blah 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 blah.
Right, because then you need different incubators and everything as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what. Well, that's how I look at it at least. I don't know like what others would say, but
So
so
you're
that's
not
why.
planning on breeding these guys then?
Possibly in the future. Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're easy
Okay.
to breed. She kind of looks like that. There's another one down lower with more like spotting. She has a lot more spotting than that. They both
Like
have a lot of like Dalmatian kind of spotting.
like this kind of.
Yeah, definitely.
You think this is something that goes with age?
Possibly. I mean, I don't know enough about arboreal species yet and like morphs and stuff to know. Um, like I definitely know that it comes from like breeding and stuff, obviously, but it also comes with like localities. So the yellow one and the orange one might come from like slightly different regions or just like different cities over, maybe where like the sun is maybe a little bit warmer, where she got like a little bit more UVV or whatever, right?
Right.
But I don't know how pigmentation works and stuff in morphs. I really don't.
Okay. Cool. I'm gonna stop this here. Very cool. Do you think the crested gecko and ball python market is oversaturated? Do you struggle selling? I think we kind of brushed over this in the beginning, but do you
Yeah.
struggle selling babies? Do you think there's too many ball python breeders, too many crested gecko breeders, or what's your opinion?
Well, I think that like I don't think that anything is oversaturated. I think that people aren't gonna buy from someone who isn't like reputable and stuff like that.
And that's probably where you're hearing all that
Yeah,
saturated talk from.
yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
And like I think people who aren't selling stuff aren't they're either not trying hard enough, they don't have quality animals, or they're just like not um like
Not trying hard enough to make a
they're
name
not
for
trying
themselves.
hard enough. Like
Yeah.
they're not trying hard enough because there's so many outlets to sell your animals nowadays. Like
Okay.
you're not making like or not making a name for yourself, I guess. But that's kind of like putting yourself out there, because like if you don't have a following with like Instagram or Facebook or something, especially in the reptile world, like you're not a nobody, because there's really big breeders out there who don't have anything. Like they just do text message or whatever.
But
But
you're in a tougher spot to sell
yeah,
your. Yeah,
exactly. And
definitely.
starting out, like if you're just being like, oh, I'm just gonna list on Kijiji and none of them sell, it's oversaturated. It's like, but it's also it depends on your quality of animals. Like if you only buy $50 animals and you're breeding $50 crested geckos and that's all you have, and you have $150 crested geckos, they're never gonna sell.
Definitely. Right.
They might sell to like 10 different pet stores in a wholesale lot for $20 each, but
But is that worth your time?
no.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. I agree. All right, cool. And then, do you have any tips for new breeders? And that's like new breeders in general, so not just ball pythons or crested geckos, but any new breeders, and both husbandry wise or on the business side of things.
Um, I think I think not enough people talk to like experienced breeders or like make like close connections to people. They just like kind of do their own thing and don't like get tips from people. And I don't know. You know what I mean?
I do 100%. Yeah, yeah. You do your research basically.
Well, do your
Ask the
but
experienced
also like
person.
make connections with people. Like just
Yeah.
like before you while you're breeding and before you start breeding, talk to other breeders that are like close to you or around you, and make those connections. Maybe buy some animals off of them or whatever, and then like make connections with people further afield, because it's not only is it going to grow your like following and stuff like that, but it's also going to help you like ask the right questions and like feel comfortable to be like, how can I fix this situation, or what can I do better? Like the foot powder thing, I would have never known that if I would have like not followed Billy and Mutation Creation and that crew, because they like really tell people that a lot. So
No, 100%.
you know,
Uh, and I'm going to add to that as well, is a lot of the information you find online is very conflicting and could very possibly be wrong. So asking an experienced breeder who's done this many, many times is definitely the best way to go.
and also like that's why I say breeders around you too is important, because like every like different things work for different people, especially with eggs, because you're in different climates and different like
Agreed. That's a
humidity,
good point. Yeah.
you know? So talk to breeders around you and see what they do that works for them really successfully, because what they do that works for them is probably going to work for you, especially if they have a big collection. And there's also people who want to screw you over a lot of the time and stuff like that, so you have to be careful of that. But if you buy animals off of people and they're clean people and you know that they're good, like there's people around you, there's people all over. This is a huge, like, it's not oversaturated, because this market is only getting bigger. Like it's
100%.
by the
More
day.
customers coming in every day as well. You're right. You're right.
I don't see why anyone would think that this market's going anywhere, because not only are pet stores always going to be like there, and there's always going to be reptiles in pet stores because people want to go look at those and be like, oh, that's cool,
Yeah.
but it's growing like in terms of just everyone. Like if you talk to anyone who's under the age of 30 or 40, like they don't really want a cat or dog, but like if
Everybody wants the bearded dragon or the ball python now. Or yeah, 100%.
the bearded dragon is a really good example, because it's something that people can get into and be like, oh, okay, or even a crested gecko. Like
Yeah.
I had someone come over the other day and they felt a crested gecko for this first time, and they're like, oh, it's soft. It's
Yeah.
soft.
I get that reaction all the time. Oh, it's not slimy?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's only growing by the day as people educate. Like Brian Barchek goes out and does stuff. There's a guy near me who goes out and does like stuff at different fairs and stuff with reptiles and gets people interested in it. So
No, definitely. Definitely.
it's not oversaturated. Like
No, it's only the beginning. No, I agree.
just
Yeah, it's gonna
market.
get a lot more saturated.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I'll give you an example of oversaturated. My clutch was 7 eggs now. I have 9 people who are interested in eggs,
Yeah.
and every single one of those would buy a snake that was worth $400 or $500, no problem.
Yeah, and you haven't even hatched the eggs, and they're already all have homes. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's a good position to be in.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not oversaturated. It's just quality and marketing yourself are the
Yeah.
two.
Learn to make a name for yourself. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I also want to add, don't be afraid to experiment. You might be the person to find the next best easy method or something. You never
Yeah,
know. But within
definitely
guidelines, obviously.
within
Don't
guidelines.
go crazy.
Yeah, don't breed 2 spiders together.
Yeah. Don't, oh, we didn't even get into the spider. We'll leave that one for the
Next,
next one.
next
Yeah.
we'll go over morphs or something in depth.
Yeah. No, I that would be definitely a very cool episode.
Sorry. Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, Mr. Harry, thank you very, very much for coming on, man. I
No,
appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
yeah. Do it
And
again.
yeah, definitely we'll have you on one more time for sure.
Sounds good.
Um, as soon as we get this thing off the ground, I'll message you and we'll plan out another episode. Definitely need to
Yeah.
discuss those that spider morph and the morph
Yeah.
market some more.
Maybe in person sometime too when I come over there.
We got to make that happen.
We'll make it
Definitely,
happen. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. Thank you very much, man.
Talk to you later.
See you later. Thank you all very much for tuning in. This was episode 1 of Daffy's Roundtable with Cascade Critters. By the way, I completely forgot to mention, I will be leaving all of Harry's information, his Instagram, his YouTube, and his Facebook in the show notes. Go check him out. It is at Cascade Critters on almost everything. And I am Fadi Nadde. I'm at Daffy's Reptiles on everything, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much.